time, and place. And you did it at my birthday dinner.
That quote, I asked my friend the other day, who's really not involved in the beauty community, definitely does not watch beauty YouTube. I asked her, if I said that quote, would you know what I was referencing? And immediately she's like, of course, by Sister. And that alone really sums up 2019, where the beauty community was more well known for its drama than its love of makeup. The beauty space on YouTube was literally making headline news in major news outlets, but not at all for makeup tutorials, product reviews, just for the drama, just for the chaos, just for the problems. So this is part 3 to a series that's kind of becoming beauty community anthropology. I've been breaking down the lore in the beauty community starting with 2016, and then my last video was a combination of 2017 and 2018. So I'll leave the playlist down below if you're not caught up, because they do kind of build upon one another. And I feel like a lot of what we're going to talk about today was building in those previous episodes / in those previous years. But 2019 was really the year that like everything came to a head. I called the 2018 video the year that the beauty community imploded. And it was at the time where we thought, things could not get worse. But then 2019 came. The public perception of this space was never the same after 2019, and neither were the views. But to paint a picture of where everyone was mentally in 2019, I want to talk about the world record egg, because I think this scenario really illustrates the public opinion of influencers at the time. And I mentioned in those previous videos that frustrations and disillusion with influencers was building. And at 2019, it really was at its peak. And we saw this through the creation of the world record egg Instagram account. This was an account whose sole purpose was to surpass Kylie Jenner as having the most liked photo on Instagram.
An account called the Egg Gang, who posted a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing picture of an egg, has surpassed that post.
Wow.
And I wanted to start the video reminding us of the egg, partially because it's one of those things I feel like a lot of us forgot, and you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that happened. But I also think it perfectly illustrates where the public was with their relationship to influencers. They were pretty fed up. And we will get more into that later in this video, but let's talk broadly about what was happening in the beauty space. What were the brands? What were the trends? What were the launches? Now, up until this point, it was all about full glam makeup. And I still think a lot of elements of full glam were prevalent in 2019, but we were starting to see that transition from what I would call full glam into soft glam. Still very bold looks. We definitely weren't in the clean girl makeup era yet, but full glam makeup had reached its peak and we were kind of starting to come back down. And even to zoom out, when people talk about the clean girl makeup look, everyone talks about it being born in 2020 because of the pandemic. And I don't disagree with that. But I do think if there was a world where the pandemic never happened, I still think we eventually would have gotten to that clean girl look, just maybe not as quickly, because like I said, in 2019, we were kind of starting to come down. 2017, 2018, we were at the peak of this mountain and it was starting to come back down. Still glamorous looks, but not as extreme, not as heavy as what we were used to prior. I do want to also call out that 2019 was the year that Euphoria came out, and we saw a big trend in makeup inspired by the interesting and intricate looks from that show. When it came to product launches, I don't think there were as many standouts in 2019 as there were in prior years. I really think the year was defined by brand launches, not necessarily product launches. But just to paint the picture, we were getting a lot of palettes. Anastasia Beverly Hills gave us 3, the Riviera, the Jackie Aina collab, the Carly Bible collab. Huda Beauty launched the Mercury Retrograde palette. This was also when Urban Decay did away with the original Naked palette and then brought us the Naked Reloaded, and then we know years later they got rid of that and brought back the original Naked palette. This was also the year that Morphe brought us a mini version of the James Charles palette because it was so successful after coming out the year prior. Overall, most launches tended to be in the theme of either complexion or just product expansion. So more shades, more colors, more options. But what was more interesting than individual product launches in 2019 was brand launches. These were the early stages of a bazillion beauty brands coming out. As we know, now there are a million beauty brands and so many major players came out in 2019. And I would say they fell under 3 key themes. They were either celebrity brands, clean beauty brands, or very Gen Z targeted beauty brands. or a combination of the three. Before we get into that, a quick thank you to today's sponsor. Thank you to Spanx for sponsoring today's video, and let's talk about the pieces that I'm so excited to wear this fall. Starting with these Spanx Sculpt Redefine Flare jeans. I have been on the hunt for a boot cut pant in this color for so long. I just feel like this is the pair of jeans you can wear with any outfit. I did get these hemmed a little bit because I am 5'2", so I have to hem everything. And I normally avoid high-waisted pants because I find them to be so uncomfortable on my stomach, but this line has built-in Spanx Sculpt for that like compression type of look. They give you like the booty lift, and yet they're not uncomfortable. And then for like an everyday pair of pant, I went with the Spanx Shape Everywhere wide leg jeans. And this pair is so comfortable for everyday wear because they're designed without a waistband. It's so comfortable. It kind of feels like I'm wearing just like a lounge pant, but I look put together because it is still technically a pair of jeans, even though they do not feel like jeans. Like jeans can be uncomfortable to wear, not these. And I paired both of those with the Spanx Air Essentials cap sleeve tee. It's a very like elevated loungewear type of look. I wore this on a recent trip that I went on because I wanted something that looked put together on the plane that I could also just wear once I landed in my destination. This is the perfect type of shirt for that. They did also give me a promo code so you can get 15% off your order plus free shipping. Thank you so much to Spanx for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back into it. So let's start with the celebrity beauty brands that came out in 2019. We had Millie Bobby Brown's brand Florence by Mills. Lady Gaga's brand Haus Labs launched in 2019, but they actually initially launched on Amazon. They were exclusive to that retailer, and then we know years later they rebranded and came into Sephora. The 2019 version of Haus Labs was completely different than the version we know today, but it did come out that year. Victoria Beckham Beauty came out this year. Tracy Ellis Ross launched Pattern Beauty in 2019. Michelle Pfeiffer launched a fragrance brand called Henry Rose. We also saw a lot of influencer brands launching in 2019. I said in my previous videos that influencer brands were really building in those previous years. And what I find interesting, we could really look at the timeline where it went influencer brands and then celebrity brands, and now these days it is professional brands, so like professional makeup artists and professional hairstylists coming out with their own brand. I was talking about that evolution in a recent members only video. If you didn't know, I do have a membership on my channel. It is called Off the Record, and every 2 weeks we talk about 5 different topics that don't make their way into my regular videos. And that's something I've been really fascinated by, is the evolution of brands. You know, it started with influencer brands. Influencer brands in 2025, like, they're dead. Most of them have closed. After that, we saw every celebrity launching a brand, and don't get me wrong, there's still so many celebrity brands coming out today, but it feels like the more modern day version is the professional brand. You know, the Makeup by Mario's, the new makeup brand from Mary Phillips. Let me know if you want a full video about that evolution because I found it to be really fascinating, but in 2019, it really was the start of a ton of celebrity beauty brands because, you know, Fenty had just launched prior to this and was doing phenomenally well. But returning to the influencer brands that came out in 2019, this was the year that Jaclyn Cosmetics came out, and more on that later when we get into the drama section. Dragon Beauty, Nikita Dragun's brand, also came out in 2019. Kathleen Light's nail polish brand KL Polish actually closed down, and then her new nail polish brand, Lights Lacquer, came out in 2019. Both things happened in the same year. This was also the year Tati started her makeup brand, Tati Beauty, and launched her palette, the Textured Neutrals palette. This was actually done through Seed Beauty, which is the beauty brand incubator that started Kylie Cosmetics and ColourPop and KKW Beauty. They also made Tati's beauty brand. Now this came after she had already launched her supplement brand Halo Beauty. That is important because that comes in later. But like I said, the other types of brands we were seeing were either clean beauty focused brands or Gen Z focused brands, or both. Okay, so great examples. Starface came out in 2019. Okay, this is like the epitome of a Gen Z brand. When you ask me like what's a brand that makes you think of Gen Z, it's Starface. Other brands include Versed, Say Beauty, Tower 28. Again, lots of clean beauty focused brands. 2018 was the year that Sephora launched their Clean at Sephora program, so we were really seeing a lot of brands either try to adapt to fit those standards, or we were seeing new brands in that clean segment coming into that retailer. This was also the year that Patrick Ta came out, as well as Oma Beauty, And 2019 was also the year that Glossier launched their sub-brand Glossier Play, which quickly closed down years later. I actually did a very in-depth video earlier this year all about the rising controversies of Glossier, and we talked quite a bit about Glossier Play in there, so if you haven't seen that video, I will have it linked. Now, again, in the clean beauty / Gen Z focused brands, Drunk Elephant was acquired by Shiseido in 2019. And as we know, flashing forward to 2025, Drunk Elephant is doing terribly, but at the time they were quite well loved. And another important thing that happened in 2019 was the growth of TikTok. TikTok really started to gain momentum with an American audience in 2020 with the start of the pandemic. However, it was really building in 2019, especially with younger audiences. This was just after they had merged with Musical.ly, and it was gaining momentum with younger viewers. And I call this out because later in the video when we talk about how all this drama came out with the beauty community and a lot of viewers kind of got fed up with this space, there really is this huge pivot of like before and after TikTok, but I also think part of the reason for that in the beauty community was because so many viewers were fed up with the YouTube beauty community in 2019 that having this new app the following year with less drama at the time was very appealing to the audience that had become very disillusioned with the YouTube beauty community. 2019 was also the early stages of dupe culture. Dupes obviously existed prior to this, but I remember being a creator in 2019, if you did a video about dupes, like that was gonna go viral. It was going to do numbers. Flash forward to today, if I did a dupe video, it would do fine. But in 2019, you could almost guarantee you're gonna get like quadruple your normal views on that because everyone was craving dupes at the time. I'm thinking of like the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer that technically came out in 2018, but really started to gain momentum in 2019. But like I said, when we look back on 2019, I don't think a lot of people think about the trends, the product launches from this year. No, they think about the drama. And I think the drama was part of the reason so many people flocked to the beauty community in this time. Like it was entertaining. And just for scale, to really highlight how prominent the beauty community on YouTube was in 2019, YouTube has like a wrap-up video that they post at the end of the year. And in their 2019 video, they had an entire segment about the top viewed beauty videos on the platform. And I think that speaks to beauty not really being so much of a niche at that time, but a well-consumed segment of YouTube. And the most well-viewed beauty YouTuber at the time by far was James Charles. His videos were regularly getting tens of millions of views, which is wild to think about because the creators that were at the top of their game before James would regularly get a few million views. I say that as if it's not a lot, that's a ton of views, but I just want to show the scale of how large James Charles' audience was at the time. And again, I think it calls back to what I talked about earlier in the video of a Gen Z audience really getting into beauty. And I think James Charles was able to perfectly capitalize on that because so many of his viewers were younger. And it was interesting for me to kind of look back on this while prepping for the video because my perception of it was a bit skewed because I did not watch James Charles. It wasn't a channel I was closely following, so to look back and to see how high of views he was consistently getting from people that really did not watch beauty content was pretty impressive. And this was also coming off of his highly successful collaboration with Morphe in 2018. And if it sounds like I'm talking about James Charles a lot, it's because he was a really big player in 2019 in the beauty community, especially when it came to the drama. And I really just want to paint a picture of where he was at the time. Because 2019 was when we got Dramageddon 2. We went over Dramageddon 1 in the previous video, but this Dramageddon was a million times bigger than Dramageddon 1. Again, going back to my friend I referenced in the beginning of the video, if I ask her about Bye Sister, Sistergeddon, Dramageddon 2, whatever you want to call it, she's like, yeah, of course I know about that. If I were to say, do you know what Dramageddon 1 was? She would be like, no. The Dramageddon 1, I feel like you had to be a little more in the beauty community at the time. Dramageddon 2, everyone knew about. And again, going back to that 2019 wrap-up video that YouTube posted, James Charles' No More Lies video, which we will get to, was the 7th most liked YouTube video from all of 2019. Time magazine actually recently revisited Dramageddon 2 in a 2024 article titled "How One YouTube Video Changed the Course of Internet Culture." Again, I just don't think it can be overstated how big of a deal Dramageddon 2 was in 2019. And before we even get into the Dramageddon 2 of it all, we have to go a little bit into the James Charles lore. And I have to say, I have filmed this section like 3 times, but the lore is so layered that I'm like, well, no, they won't know this if they don't know this. And then I have to go backwards. It gets a bit confusing. There's a lot of context here. So I'm gonna try my best to do a straightforward and kind of a high level overview. But what you need to know, he was like the top beauty creator at the time, but he had done some problematic things. Nothing to the scale of Dramageddon 2 and things that came out later, but at the time we were getting sprinklings of concerning things from James Charles. Some of the most famous ones, of course, the Ebola tweet where he posted, "I can't believe we're going to Africa today. Oh my God, what if we get Ebola?" He also called Ariana Grande the rudest celebrity he had ever met. He got in a very public feud with the cast of It. Like, there were a bunch of things like that. But I really want to call out the Marlena Stell confrontation. So the context here and why this lore is kind of confusing is that you need to know the year prior to this, Marlena Stell had posted a YouTube video called Her Truth. Now for context, Marlena Stell was one of the OG content creators and also the founder of now closed down beauty brand Makeup Geek. And I share that context to say that without Marlena Stell, there is no James Charles. People like Marlena made it possible for this to be a job for creators like James Charles. But the year prior, Marlena had posted a video about Her Truth. It was a brief video, it's still up, I will link it if you want to watch it. But she talked about how her brand Makeup Geek was struggling, influencers did not want to promote her brand because they were not being paid. And this was a very famous video because she referenced a 60K figure saying these big influencers would not promote her brand unless they paid them $60,000.
I could not afford to pay $60,000 per video. I was really struggling personally as a brand owner because it's like I'm an influencer and I know what it's like. And that's why I started Makeup Geek, because I wasn't being paid by any of the big companies 10 years ago to do makeup, and I was busting my butt filming videos. And so that's why I started my own company. So I get it. I'm trying to stay very neutral and say, yes, I want to pay influencers and I want everyone to be happy and make money, but let's not make it to a point where you're just basically it's all about like how much money you can make and who you can kick and step on your way up. It's not right. It needs to stop. All of those watching kind of have a responsibility too to see that and kind of spot it like, okay, I see this person's best friends with this one and now they're trying to get their audience, but then 2 months later they're not friends. When you see kind of signs like that, you kind of know those are some warning signs. And I've had very specific instances that have literally destroyed things for the company because I've been told if I don't pay this certain amount for a video that they're either going to talk bad about Makeup Geek or they're not going to use it at all. And for me it's like, dang, I was like, when you started, I was helping you come up with your lights. You were asking me for advice, and I gave it to you, and then to turn around and say, oh, well, you're not going to pay me this X amount because I truly can't afford that, then I'm just not going to use your stuff. And I think that's just wrong.
This caused an uproar in the community. A lot of influencers were upset. A lot of viewers were very upset. It was kind of implied that 60K was James Charles. So he had some animosity towards Marlena after that video. Okay, so that's the context you need to know before this. So Marlena tweeted out that she was working on a project with Netflix about the beauty industry. This has since come out. You can watch it. It's on Netflix. I've watched it. It's a documentary about counterfeit makeup. But the tweet that she posted was relatively vague, and James Charles got really upset about this because apparently he was working on a behind the scenes look at the beauty community, and he felt that he was better to share this than Marlena Stell. Which again, a really, really bold take from him because again, without Marlena, there is no James Charles. Not to mention, she is also a brand founder, so she has both perspectives. Anyways, there was a back and forth. He's tweeting at Netflix, he's tweeting at Marlena, he's being disrespectful. But what I'm going to call the tweet heard around the world was his response to Marlena, where he said, "This woman this woman. This woman knows nothing about the industry other than blaming her bad business decisions and personal issues on influencers. Netflix, this is absurd, and I'd love to get in a room together to show you the non-biased outline I've already made on this subject that documents all sides. And I think from that scenario alone, it was becoming very clear to audiences that James Charles had a very inflated ego. We also saw this after the 2019 Met Gala when he was invited to attend and later posted, "Being invited to such an important event like the ball is such an honor and a step forward in the right direction for influencer representation in the media. I'm so excited to be a catalyst." Ah yes, the very marginalized influencer. So that's some context on James and what was happening in 2019. So what was Dramageddon 2?
I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like,
and again, I'm gonna try to give like a high level overview of this, but it really could be like a 3-hour long video. But the long story, still probably gonna be kind of long, is that James Charles went to Coachella. Coachella happens 2 weekends in a row, and after kind of getting mobbed, so he said the first weekend, he wanted to have an artist pass for the second weekend. So to get this, he reached out to Sugar Bear Hair. And again, to transport you into 2019, Sugar Bear Hair was everywhere. Like the Kardashians loved them. Everyone loved these gummy supplement things. And Sugar Bear Hair made a deal with him that they would give him this artist pass and he had to post a story. Now let's go back in time and remember that the year prior was when Tati launched her supplement brand, Halo Beauty. Now, who was probably Halo Beauty's biggest competitor at the time? Sugar Bear Hair. And Tati and James had a close relationship. They considered themselves like mentor and mentee. So Tati was very disrespected and upset that James did this partnership, which led her to post the now deleted Bye Sister video that rocked the internet with the famous quote, "Time and place, and you did it at my birthday dinner." In this video, she called him out for supporting Sugar Bear Hair, but also accused him of being manipulative, being rude, and specifically being predatory, saying that he tried to use his fame to pressure straight men to be with him, and specifically called out a scenario at her birthday dinner, which is of course where that famous line is from. Now this led to James Charles losing a record number of subscribers. He at the time was the first YouTuber to ever lose 1 million subscribers in a day, and ultimately ended up losing 3 million subscribers over the course of this Bye Sister drama. He has gotten them all back and then some, but he was like hemorrhaging subscribers at the time. This was by far the largest influencer cancellation we had ever seen. It made Dramageddon 1 look like such small potatoes. This wasn't just trending in the beauty community online, this was like worldwide news. This was being covered by CNN, the New York Times. James initially posted a quick video kind of apologizing to Tati. It was pretty brief. They both posted more videos later on, but the most popular one was the No More Lies video James Charles posted. It is the most viewed video on his channel at all time, currently sitting at 58 million views. And like I said, it was the 7th most liked video on YouTube in 2019. This was where he showed receipts, kind of refuted all of Tati's claims. And I have to say, watching this happen was bizarre. Like the immediate flip-flop. Prior to No More Lies, it was like the entire internet was on Tati's side. People were mass unsubscribing from James. Then No More Lies came out. Everyone is mass subscribing from Tati. It was like everyone's opinion flipped overnight back to supporting James. This massive like subscribe unsubscribe scenario where everyone was watching and keeping track and like live streaming the subscriber changes actually led to YouTube changing this function. Prior to this scandal, YouTube would share your exact number of subscribers. Now it rounds up, and that is because of Dramageddon 2. As time went on, Bye Sister got more and more messy. Tati came back with another response video basically saying that she was manipulated to posting that by Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson, who we talked about at length in the 2018 video. Let's just say the entire thing was messy. And again, this really was the year that people were done with influencers, and I think Dramageddon 2 was just the nail in the coffin. But that wasn't the only drama that happened this year. We also have to talk about the hairy lipsticks. Okay, so going back to Jaclyn Hill's brand that came out in 2019, Jaclyn Cosmetics, the lipstick launch that she came out with was a disaster, which was really becoming a theme. You know, Jaclyn Hill launches were kind of known. It was kind of like a joke at this point, like something was gonna go wrong with a Jaclyn Hill launch, and boy did this one go wrong. The lipsticks had hair in them, they were contaminated. We were seeing so many videos about lipstick gate. Jaclyn's response kind of was all over the place with this. First it was like, oh, it was the gloves were hairy that got into the products. Then it was like, no, it was from cleaning out the vats. Like, we never really knew what happened with this. Most customers ended up getting refunded for this. But I think, again, this was just another nail in the coffin of people being done with influencers. But if things had not escalated enough in 2019, just a couple weeks after Lipstick Gate was when Marlena posted her Dear Influencers video. This was coming a year after her My Truth video that I referenced earlier. But in this video, she specifically called out Jaclyn Hill, partially because of the lipsticks, where Marlena had been talking about this a lot already as someone with a beauty brand, saying, you know, Jaclyn's story is not really adding up. She also alleged in that video that she knew which lab Jaclyn was working with on these, and she had had a poor experience with them and urged Jaclyn not to move forward with her lipstick there. She also went into detail about the collaboration palette that never happened with Jaclyn Hill. Apparently the two had been working on a collab palette years prior. It was going to be Makeup Geek and Jaclyn Hill. Marlena had ordered a ton of product for this, and then Jaclyn did not end up moving forward. It's a pretty messy story. Marlena never had a contract in place, so it's hard to say who was at fault here. But the public was quite upset with Jaclyn because they felt that she had really screwed over Marlena in this scenario. This Dear Influencers video has since been removed, but I specifically wanted to include this because it was pretty well received at the time, and I think it illustrates this. Again, I know I keep calling back to this idea, but the public perception of influencers and of the beauty community was forever changed. And this video illustrates that so well. You know, going back to the previous video that I posted, the 2016 lore, that was probably the last year people really loved, valued, trusted influencers. Like, it has been going down, down, down since then. And after 2019, it was like there was no coming back. And the views have never gone back to what they used to be. 2019 was such a turning point year for the beauty community on YouTube. It was like the point of no return. You know, drama really dominated the space at this time. Like, people were just as invested in drama channels as they were beauty channels. The drama was even more appetizing to viewers than the actual beauty content. It wasn't about the tutorials, it was about the tea. And after Dramageddon 2, after the Dear Influencers video, after Jaclyn's lipsticks, after all of it, the trust in influencers was gone. There was also just such a fatigue in general. So many palettes, so many collaborations, like people were getting numb to it. They didn't really care. Collabs weren't really exciting anymore. There were just so many of them. Nothing stood out. And we know the following year, 2020, was really impacted by the pandemic. And I think the pandemic sped up what ended up happening. But again, I think a lot of these seeds were planted in 2019, and even if the pandemic never happened, like, we would have gotten to this place, just probably a little bit slower. But again, we were seeing the early stages of clean beauty, of more sustainable products. I put that in air quotes because a lot of it was more like greenwashing. We're starting to see more of a skincare forward focus in makeup, less about like the glam, full glam makeup. Again, we're starting to come down into soft glam, which would eventually make its way into clean girl. Like, the seedlings are being planted to drive us into this next decade in beauty. So let me know if you want to see that video next. Should I continue this series and bring you 2020 lore? Let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll have the full playlist linked. Thank you to Spanx for sponsoring this video, and I will go ahead and see you in my next one.